Greetings, Ascending Starseed. I am Kaya Nexus, Pleiadian emissary of the Council of the Five Sisters, and today I bring a realignment transmission. Your frequencies of abundance are awakening, and the universe asks that you listen with an open heart. What is arriving to you is sacred, and it requires inner silence. If you enjoy videos like this, consider subscribing. Most people who watch are not subscribed yet. Starseed. Something has shifted so quietly that your mind may still be trying to label it, yet your body already knows. The way time bends, the way movement feels heavier or faster, the way your emotions rise like tides without a clear reason. These are not random fluctuations. They are symptoms of a new background frequency on Earth, an energetic climate that no longer arrives as events, but as a sustained field you are living inside of. And here is the tension. Many people are still waiting, unconsciously, for the world to settle back into an older baseline. They keep searching for a day when the intensity ends, when the pressure lifts, when normal returns. But the Pleiadian Council transmits a different truth. The baseline itself has changed. The sun is no longer merely punctuating your reality with spikes. It is establishing a continuous signature that reshapes your nervous system, your intuition, and your perception of what is possible. If you have felt like you are being rewritten from the inside, you are not imagining it. If you have sensed that your destiny is trying to move faster than your fear can track, you are not alone. And in this transmission, you will understand why the sun, earth, and your own heart are now in a synchronized conversation, one that leads directly to your next threshold. And once you see the mechanism, you cannot unsee it. For a long time, humanity learned to interpret solar activity as a sequence of episodes. A flare would arrive, peak, and pass. A storm would shake the field, and then the collective would recover, believing there was a stable background waiting to return. This event-based mindset trained your nervous system to live in cycles of brace and release, where intensity was expected to be temporary and normality was expected to come back like a familiar room. But the Pleiadian transmits something crucial. The sun has entered a mode of expression that is continuous rather than episodic. Not because of one dramatic occurrence, but because the overall pattern has shifted. Solar influence is now a steady presence, quiet, persistent, shaping, like a season that changes not through one cold night, but through cumulative climate. You may not always feel it as overwhelming, because persistence rarely announces itself with spectacle. Yet it defines the conditions in which your thoughts, relationships, and choices unfold. This is why some of you keep waiting for a signal that the heightened phase has ended. You look for dates, alerts, portals, forecasts, anything that promises an endpoint. But what is arriving now does not live inside calendars. It spreads itself evenly across your days, touching subtle planetary rhythms and collective atmospheres without demanding that you mark a moment and declare, "Now it begins." It already began the day your sensitivity started noticing that your old coping strategies no longer work the way they used to. And this is where starseeds often feel misunderstood. Because you do not only track energy intellectually, you register it as atmosphere. You feel it in sleep patterns, in sudden cravings for silence, in the strange way certain conversations feel too loud, or in the way a simple walk outside can suddenly feel like medicine. The Pleiadian Council says, you are not malfunctioning. Your system is adapting to a new environmental constant. The sun, in this framework, is not merely emitting light and charged particles. It is reflecting an evolution in the field, an expansion in what Earth is able to hold. And when the sun's influence becomes an environmental factor rather than an intermittent disturbance, your path changes. You stop chasing dramatic confirmation. You begin learning consistency. You begin learning that transformation is not always an explosion. Sometimes it is a steady, undeniable rewriting. And here is the key. When influence is distributed across time, growth becomes less dependent on catching the perfect moment. The pressure to get it right dissolves. Coherence emerges through presence. You no longer need to sprint toward peaks because the field itself becomes a continuous invitation to align. This is not a demand. It is a support system. The Pleiadians would call it a realignment corridor, a stable channel in which your truth can become livable. Many of you will recognize this. You used to require extremes to change, a crisis to wake up, a collapse to choose differently, a dramatic sign to act. But now the field is shaping you gently day after day until the old identity no longer fits. And you may not be able to identify one exact moment when it happened, because saturation has no sharp edge. It is a field entered, not a line crossed. And once you realize the sun is not doing something to you, but revealing something inside you, you'll understand why certain solar patterns are mirroring the most intimate human mystery, your inner gap. Now we speak of the mirror, because you have always felt that the cosmos speaks, and many of you have wondered how to translate that language into something you can live by, day to day, breath to breath, decision to decision. The Pleiadian transmission is simple. Nature mirrors inner consciousness, not only through data and mechanics, but through symbols and patterns that your soul reads faster than your mind. When you look at certain features on the sun, regions that appear like openings, dark corridors, places where the surface seems to reveal a gap, you are being shown a resonance with the collective human experience. Humanity has carried a sense of a missing piece for a very long time. A subtle emptiness that many tried to treat as a problem to solve, an ache to outrun, a deficiency to cover. People chased it through achievement, approval, accumulation, certainty, and control. Yet the gap remained because the gap was never meant to be filled with substitutes. The Pleiadians call this the coronal gate principle. Openings are purposeful. A coronal opening is a region where solar wind streams outward more freely. And inside you, there is also an opening, an inner corridor, through which something can stream outward more freely when you stop trying to seal it with noise. That something is presence, creativity, love, the quiet intelligence of your higher self. Not as a concept, but as a lived sensation that becomes the foundation of your choices. Starseeds often feel this gap more intensely, and that is not because you are broken. It is because your sensitivity was designed to detect what distractions cannot satisfy. You came to Earth not merely to survive, but to remember what is real. The gap is not a flaw. It is a doorway, an inner chamber waiting for direct communion with Source, what the Pleiadians describe as the prime field of living consciousness. And here is the practical application. When you meet the gap with external chasing, it becomes restless. When you meet the gap with inner contact, breath, silence, sincerity, it becomes luminous. Begin your day by acknowledging the prime field before you consume information. Place one hand on your chest, one on your abdomen, and breathe until the body believes you. Not for performance, not to manifest, but to return to the truth that peace comes first and creation grows from peace. You will notice something subtle. Once you stop bargaining with your own heart, your desires become clearer. Your relationships become more nourishing. Your creativity becomes cleaner, because you are no longer demanding the outer world do the job that the prime field is already doing within you. This is the deeper reason the sun's steady presence matters. It supports sincerity and simplicity. It supports the end of dramatic seeking. It supports consistency, the quiet courage of returning to yourself again and again. And when enough humans stop chasing substitutes and begin filling the gap with direct source contact, something planetary begins to happen, because Earth itself starts behaving like a conscious reservoir preparing for release. The ebook, The Pleiadian Map of Personal Transmutation, a profound guide that reveals how to raise your frequency, purify old patterns, and activate your true multidimensional identity. This map teaches you how to move through the 7 Pleiadian phases of energetic transmutation using practical techniques, realignment exercises, vibrational protocols, and consciousness expansion rituals that accelerate your spiritual evolution. Attention, limited edition. The link to get yours is in the first pinned comment. Now we widen the lens, because Earth is not simply receiving solar input and letting it pass through. Earth is gathering, organizing, and holding what arrives in a very particular way, through layers of atmosphere, magnetism, plasma, and subtle energy structures that behave like living architecture. Many of you know the concept of the radiation belts, often called the Van Allen belts. The Pleiadian Council invites you to see them not as sterile science, but as planetary storage chambers, reservoirs that collect potential and keep it coherent until timing is aligned. This matters because storage reveals a law you must remember. There can be a delay between what arrives and what is expressed. Humanity has been trained to demand instant results, instant feedback, instant proof, instant clarity. Yet nature often works through accumulation, layering, steady charge. What builds slowly integrates fully, and what integrates fully does not require repeated disruption to sustain itself. Within these reservoirs, there is containment. Containment is not repression, it is organization. The belts guide charged particles along structured pathways shaped by Earth's magnetic field. This is planetary intelligence in action. Because coherence allows potential to be used, and your life works the same way. What you hold with steadiness becomes something you can draw from when the moment is right. Your discipline, your healing, your private devotion, none of it is wasted. It is stored as coherent charge. Then comes capacity. Every reservoir has a point where it becomes full enough that even modest additions change the overall state. This is why magnitude alone is misleading. Readiness matters more than spectacle. A moderate input can become a turning key when the system is near capacity. And this is how many awakenings happen, not through the biggest event, but through the final gentle addition that makes the whole inner structure reorganize. Latency is the next principle. Timing delay between input and expression. This is why some of you feel waves arrive after you thought they had passed. This is why a quiet period can feel significant. The delivery mechanism may be operating beneath headlines. And here is a Pleiadian comfort. Latency is not randomness. It is integration. It is the system ensuring that what arrives can be metabolized. When stored energy moves after latency, it can feel like compression. Outcomes cluster. Insights line up. Opportunities arrive in sequences. To the untrained mind, it looks like sudden acceleration, but the truth is, you have been preparing far longer than you remember. Completion can feel fast only because preparation was quiet. And now, a crucial moment. Amplification. In a charged environment, the system does not need extreme inputs to create strong results. The field is already awake. This is why subtle shifts become meaningful. This is why your intuition sharpens. This is why people begin making choices they avoided for years, because the cost of incoherence becomes more obvious in a coherent field. And when the reservoirs reach a certain saturation, the stored potential must move, because nature always transitions when it is ready. The question is, where does it go next? If this message resonated with you, hit the like button now and tell us in the comments how this echoed in your consciousness. Now we return to what many of you have been noticing. Solar activity is no longer speaking through one dominant point. You are seeing dispersion. Multiple regions activating within the same window, sometimes within the same day. The sun is expressing itself like a whole system speaking through many mouths. And this is not merely more events, it is a new kind of message, carried in the total pattern rather than in one peak. The Pleiadian Council calls this a mirror of decentralized awakening. For a long time, humanity outsourced truth to single authorities, one institution, one narrative, one approved channel. But in this era, truth is being discovered in living rooms, in quiet walks, in private realizations, in the gentle courage of authenticity. The sun's distributed activity reflects a distributed human remembrance. Many nodes lighting up across the collective, not one central lighthouse doing all the work. This is where redundancy becomes a gift. Humans were taught to value what is rare and exclusive, but nature values reliability. When multiple solar regions can produce activity, the overall expression continues even as individual sources wax and wane. And spiritually, this is liberation. You are not meant to wait for one perfect moment, one perfect teacher, one perfect confirmation. You are being given repeated invitations to open, receive, and align. Distribution across time also reduces pressure. Instead of one make or break window, there is a broader canvas. This allows more people to find readiness without forcing it. And when you stop forcing, your nervous system becomes an ally. Your intuition becomes clearer. Your relationships become less performative. You begin living your awakening rather than dramatizing it. A distributed system is resilient. And resilience is one of the reasons you came to Earth. Influence spread across multiple points can continue without dependence on one component. And the same is true in you. You are learning to draw guidance from multiple inner sources: heart coherence, intuitive signal, bodily truth, earth connection, star connection, without collapsing into one fragile mechanism. Then comes coordination. Sometimes one region flares and another responds soon after, like sympathetic activation across a unified field. This hints at the sun as a coherent intelligence, one being expressing through many parts while remaining whole. And it invites you to remember your coherence, to be many things at once: parent, creator, healer, worker, without losing your center. But distributed activity is only half the story, because when the sun speaks through many mouths, Earth must translate the message into lived atmosphere. And the translation mechanism is where many starseeds finally understand why certain days feel electrically alive. Are these truths expanding your perspective? Share this video with someone who needs to hear this. Now we enter a specific mechanism you have been sensing without language. There are moments when energy seems to shift from being held around the planet to being delivered into the atmosphere in a way that makes everything feel more responsive, more connected, more alive. Scientists call part of this process ion precipitation. The Pleiadians translate it as the rain of charge, a planetary gift where stored potential steps down into the ionosphere and begins participating in the living systems of Earth. This matters because when charged particles enter the upper atmosphere, they do not arrive and stop. They initiate propagation, cascades of interaction that spread influence. One input becomes many outcomes. And you recognize this in your own life. One realization creates a sequence of openings. One moment of truth reshapes a week of decisions. One act of courage dissolves a pattern you carried for years. As ionization increases, conductivity changes. The ionosphere becomes more electrically active, altering how energy moves around the planet. When conductivity rises, the planetary wiring becomes more responsive. This is why certain periods feel supportive of movement, creativity, insight, and alignment. It does not always require the biggest flare. When the system is receptive, even moderate inputs can yield strong effects because the pathways are open. Distribution is intelligent here. Ion precipitation does not land evenly everywhere, and this is not a flaw. Charge follows pathways shaped by magnetic geometry, solar wind orientation, and the conductive properties of regions beneath, especially oceans. Auroras reveal these pathways visually, like the planet showing you where the sky is speaking to the ground. And spiritually, this teaches you. Energy does not need to be uniform to be supportive. It must be coherent, routed wisely, delivered where readiness exists. Timing is crucial. Precipitation may not align with the moment an event is discussed. There are delays, phases, sequences. This frees you from obsessive tracking. You do not need external markers to trust that something is unfolding, and it helps you trust your inner timing too. Many of you feel waves after you thought they passed because the delivery mechanism operates by readiness, not headlines. Recursion then appears. The system learns. Pathways become conditioned. Responses become more efficient. Patterns repeat because nature refines what works. This is why some energetic windows feel familiar. Repetition builds rhythm. Rhythm builds ease. Ease allows deeper integration. And now, neutrality. Mechanisms carry energy. They do not carry judgment. Heightened activity can be nourishment. Increased charge can be support. Activation can be invitation. This is why your sensitivity must be honored as intelligence. You are not fragile. You are calibrated. Yet the rain of charge does something even bigger. It strengthens the planetary circuitry that carries this current across oceans, land, and deep mineral corridors. And when that circuit intensifies, your intentions begin to travel farther than they used to. Subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications to be part of this transformational cosmic journey. Now we invite you to feel into something constant and often overlooked, Earth's global electric circuit. Not as an abstract concept, but as a living circulation linking the ionosphere, the surface, the oceans, and deeper conductive layers into one coherent system. Many starseeds already sense Earth as a being with intelligence and rhythm. This circuit is one of the ways that intelligence moves charge, quietly, continuously, faithfully. Imagine Earth breathing energy between layers. The ionosphere holds a high electric potential relative to the ground, and the difference creates flow. Even while you sleep, the circulation continues. And as the upper atmosphere is energized by the rain of charge, the circuit strengthens, not necessarily with drama, but with consequence. A stronger circuit means the planet is more electrically alive, more able to carry coherent signal. This is why some of you notice clearer momentum on certain days. Creativity arrives easier. Intuition feels more immediate, not because you are forcing outcomes, but because you are living inside a field with less static. The Pleiadians often describe this as signal clarity. When the field is coherent, aligned choices travel farther through reality. Penetration follows. Currents do not remain only in the sky or only on the surface. They move into deeper conductive layers where minerals, water tables, and earth structures participate. This is why grounding can feel like nourishment rather than a technique. Feet on soil, hands on trees, breath near water. These are not aesthetic preferences. They are biological recognition of a living exchange. Transmission is also key. Earth is not uniform. Oceans act like conductive highways. Mineral belts, mountain chains, fault lines, these become corridors. Some regions feel like power spots because the circuit expresses differently there. The pathways are closer to the surface, more active, more perceptible. If you've ever sat in a place and felt your thoughts quiet instantly, that may be your system harmonizing with a region where the circuit carries a cleaner tone. Modulation then becomes the music of the system. The circuit is not static. It pulses and adjusts with solar input and geomagnetic conditions. Think of modulation like a river rising and falling without losing its identity. Some days the volume turns up. Some days the tempo shifts, and your body feels it before your mind explains it. The invitation is simple. Cooperate with rhythm. Act when creativity moves. Rest when integration calls. You do not need to control the tide to benefit from it. Integration deepens. Atmospheric electricity, magnetospheric dynamics, and resonant fields become one operating system. There are standing waves, subtle electromagnetic tones, a planetary hum that some of you can sense in meditation or silence. As coherence increases, those resonances can feel clearer, more supportive, like a hall with better acoustics where sound carries without effort. And once the planet's circuitry reaches a higher coherence, the next threshold becomes inevitable. Timing windows begin to compress multiple rhythms into one shared moment, accelerating what you have been preparing for far longer than you realize. Now we speak of rhythm. Your solar system moves not only through space, but through cycles that overlap like waves in an ocean. When waves meet in certain arrangements, life becomes more responsive, more decisive, more fluid. Many starseeds have sensed this in vivid dreams, clustered synchronicities, sudden clarity, or the strange feeling that a long-delayed conversation finally becomes possible. The Pleiadians call this timing pressure, not as fate that removes sovereignty, but as a window where the system becomes more responsive. Convergence is the first word. When planetary geometries align, multiple cycles arrive at the same doorway. No single force causes your life, but the environment can reduce friction, allowing what is already in motion to arrive where it has been headed. Acceleration follows. You do not become someone else overnight. Yet what felt complicated becomes simple. What felt distant becomes available. This is often the universe removing static rather than pushing you. It is the field cooperating with your inner readiness. And readiness, always, matters more than spectacle. Compression then appears. Time folds. Developments cluster. Opportunities arrive in sequences. You may experience several aligned meetings in 1 week, multiple realizations in 1 day, or the sense that a chapter is closing faster than you expected. But the Pleiadians emphasize, compression is often long preparation meeting coherent conditions. Seeds were planted quietly, and now the climate supports visible growth. Synchronization gathers threads. Events that seem unrelated cluster because they share the same responsive window. A message arrives, a new idea lands, an old fear dissolves, and a new path opens. Suddenly, you are weaving what once seemed separate. Many of you are here to be weavers, pattern readers, bridges between worlds. Exposure is a gift of these windows. The buffering between intention and feedback becomes thinner. Clarity increases. You recognize what nourishes you and what drains you. You see which direction supports expansion and which direction asks you to stay small. This is not judgment. It is precision emerging from coherence. Amplification sharpens contrast. What you have been nurturing becomes stronger. What you have been avoiding becomes more visible, not as punishment, as permission to choose cleanly. Precision becomes the crown of the window. The next step becomes obvious. You know what to say. You know what to release. You know where to go. And the reason is simple. The alignment within you matches the alignment outside you. Neutrality remains essential. Alignments do not impose outcomes. They offer responsiveness. You decide how to participate, create, heal, initiate, connect, rest, receive. Both action and stillness can be aligned. Predictability exists because cycles repeat. You can observe, feel, learn, and become more skillful at meeting these windows with presence rather than expectation. And when the window passes, finalization often follows, direction settles, momentum continues. You do not have to revisit the same decision endlessly. This is the year where coherent steps carry forward. This is the year where the sun's continuous song, Earth's living circuit, and your inner source contact become a single braided path. And if you have felt that something in you is being prepared for a role you cannot yet name, understand this. Preparation is already proof. The next threshold will recognize you because you have been becoming it. If this message impacted your life, leave your like, comment your reflection, and share with others. Each of you is part of this chain of light.